Okay, I'll call Public Works Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Cindy,
Here.
Seth,
Here.
Todd,
Here.
AJ,
Here.
and Tanya. Here.
Okay, first period for public comment. No one is here. Is anyone online who would like to make a comment?
We don't have any public online
Okay,
at this
save
time.
some
Cindy.
time. Approval of committee minutes from January 6th, 2026.
This is Todd. I'll approve the minutes.
Make
This is
motion
AJ, I'll
to approve.
second.
Okay, Todd made the motion to approve. AJ seconded it. Any discussion at all? Comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Discussion with possible action on landfill, why we're all here. Sarah.
Okay, Nate is gonna let me share my screen. And then I'm actually not gonna do most of the talking for once. Mike Amstead, if you remember, our landfill consultant is also on the line, and he's gonna walk us through all the work that we've done over the last month and a half, really, and where we're at with everything. Hold on, we're almost there. You gonna share screen with me?
You had it.
Host disabled
Oh,
participant
You know
screen
what? I was wondering
sharing.
Why you're asking that question? I made Seth focus. That's not good. That's probably wondering.
While we're trying to get our ducks in a row here, Mike, do you want to test your volume and voice?
Sure, can you hear me?
You're always a little quiet, so I think the closer you are to your microphone, the better. But
Okay,
Here you go. Okay. Now I can control the screen. All right. Okay, so Mike, I've got up hopefully you can see it as well, the image of the landfill and the monitoring wells.
yes. So, based on discussions with the WDNR, they have required that the city of Viroqua determine the nature and extent at the two landfills. So we've called them the east and the west landfill, divided by Chicago Avenue. We previously had 7 gas probes in on the east landfill. We installed an additional 4, 1 on the west, 2 on the south, and 1 on the east. There were 3 other ones that were proposed, but one we were able to get rid of just because of the rock outcropping and it wasn't possible to drill it there. And the other 2 utility issues, and it was a little redundant. So we reduced the scope there. On the west landfill, we installed 15 new gas probes that surrounded the site. And I've color coded the concentrations, methane concentrations that we've been getting out there. So green is 0 to 5% methane by volume. The yellow is 5 to 20%, and orange is greater than 20%. So based on that, you can see that over by the trailer park, we have most of them are green, which is good. Anything that's yellow or orange is according to the regulations, is an exceedance, and it is needs to be rectified within 30 days. Although those 30 days passed a long time ago, but we're still being held to that standard. So yellow and orange, either for the east or the west landfill, those are problem areas that need to be addressed. The GP1, which is over by the church building, I highlighted that as green and yellow because when we have a temporary vacuum on that gas probe or adjacent to that gas probe, we are able to keep it down around the less than 5% number. Without that temporary blower, it would probably end up being yellow, if not orange. So that one is we're good right now. And as far as things are concerned with the church building, we've got capture on that one. But in the big picture, the landfill, both landfills are still producing gas at a quantity that it's sufficient. The final cover is holding the gas in. The few gas vents that are out there are either not working or are insufficient to keep the gas from migrating. And as part of the work that was being done north of the east landfill, we had them dig a test pit down to the sand layer that's underlying the silty clay out above the sand layer. And the sand is a very, very clean, fine sand. It'd be great playground sand. It's a nice white color, but it's not good for the situation we have here because it's not impeding gas migration at all. So we've basically gas is built up in the two landfills to the point that it's migrating. It's basically has nowhere to go but to follow the sand lenses and go for the most part in all directions around both landfills, to the lesser part to the south of the west landfill. And I believe that is in part because of the ditch that is between where those gas probes are and the west landfill. But we, at W3 and W1, we still are seeing gas that is migrating. So as a result of that, I've been talking with Sarah and Nate and Chad, and we're looking at some next steps. I guess the other thing of concern is the GP13 over by the storage buildings. There is gas over there. So now that's although those aren't inhabited structures, they are structures. So you've got that situation to the east of the east landfill. And Chad went out there today and collected some readings and got very low readings. However, Sarah did get a 61% at the gas probe itself. So there's gas migrating, even though there's a significant ditch between the east landfill and the storage units. Gas is migrating underneath that ditch and getting on the going off the property in that area over there. So what basically the kind of the next steps are and Sarah, I don't know if you had a chance to see my last email about the cutoff trench. We sent you an email on that.
Picture of the Hanson property
Yes, the Hanson property.
in one of these. This one here?
Yes. So if you can zoom in on the basin. So one of the things we're talking about doing, there's a purple dashed line that goes underneath the basin. And what we're proposing to do is the bottom of the stormwater basin is required for stormwater issues to be clay lined. So it's going to have 2 feet of clay soils placed on the bottom of the pond. And what we are proposing to do is along that purple line is at the very bottom, extended in an additional 2 feet, and where the pond starts coming up to existing ground surface, maintain that same elevation of 1084, which is 2 feet beyond the bottom of the clay bottom. Extend that and create kind of a clay wall barrier that cuts into the sand layer and hopefully will impede any gas migration from going to the north. And then where there's a green line, and these lines are based on what is actually the city's property. So we had to go on a diagonal, and then the green line is just within the city's property, is to construct a gravel trench there, similar to what we had proposed within the limits of the waste, and have a pipe at the top of that gravel trench that will vent to two vents, the yellow dots. And that again is a means of cutting off any gas that may want to migrate to the north. It's not foolproof, so the fact that that is not 100%, because the gas can always go around the edge, can always go underneath it. Um, the and the so there's the fact that it's not a perfect solution, but it is I think a necessary solution, not only for the short term, um, with the construction that's going on, but also for the long term, to have a passive system out there. Because I think in the near term, what is going to be needed, because of the fact that there's gas prevalent on all sides of both landfills, is a active system that actively draws the methane out of the landfills. I'll take a breath if anybody's got a question before.
I don't think we know what to ask.
Okay. So the trench is one thing we want to do, and then Sarah, if you can go back to the other drawing. On the west landfill, what I'd like to do, since they have equipment in the Hanson property area, is to excavate a test pit just north of Gas Pro W3 as a just to make sure there is not waste on the south side of the ravine. So maybe one or two test pits on that portion of the property, just to make sure it is just gas that's migrating and there is not another contributing factor. Kind of like what happened over by Gas Probe 1 and 2, where we dug a test pit and there wasn't supposed to be waste, but there was, just to have more information. And the fact that they have the equipment so close by, get those test pits, just to see what's on that side, and is there a reason why gas would be around GPW3? Is that, as far as the active system, that will determine what we need to do for an active system. So, there's two things we can do. And what I'm proposing to do is pull together two variations. One is an active system that will have a blower system and vacuum the gas out of the landfills. There's variations to that we can do. We can either have one blower that handles both landfills. That'll be a bigger blower, and that's going to have some different pricing. So put a cost together for that. or have two blowers, two smaller blowers, one for each landfill. Um, and then kind of the third option, or I'm calling it the second option, is a passive system where we drill a whole lot of holes out there and we put passive vents in all over the place. I don't think that is a good option. I don't think it's necessarily going to work, but I want to at least give the council the numbers, put the numbers in front of them so that they can basically, say that we did look at it and that option was due to price and the potential for it being ineffective, decided against it. So I want to provide you that information. And one of the things that's come up is, what about just excavating both the landfills? Just get rid of them. Get rid of all the waste. Make the problem go away. The problem is the last statement there, the problem doesn't go away. The DNR will have you test the bottom of the soil on the bottom to confirm that you've excavated all the way down to clean soil. The fact that this was put in on top of just existing ground without any kind of liner, there is likely going to be liquids that have gone down into the existing ground. And then there's a good chance the DNR is going to say, oh, you need a groundwater monitoring program out here. So install groundwater monitoring wells. And then you start going down a really bad rabbit hole of dealing with groundwater impacts. The other problem to that is just the sheer volume of waste, and at a disposal cost of $60 a ton, you're talking millions of dollars to remove that waste and take it off site, which would be trucking it down Main Street, Viroqua to the landfill or to a transfer station. So again, not an ideal solution, and it's going to probably be more expensive. So that's a lot to swallow. Anybody have any questions?
I think Tanya does.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hi, Mike. My name is Tanya. I just want to make sure I understood a couple of things that you said. That excavating would cause groundwater issues. Is that because we would be removing the liner that's there currently?
There is not a liner. It would just raise the question. The question, DNR can always still bring it up, but they haven't to date. So if you excavate, it may, if you get to the bottom and you show that you got to keep digging down because the soils underneath the landfill are impacted, then they're going to start asking questions of how far did those impacts go. Right now, I'm not sure why the DNR is not questioning problems with groundwater, but we want to leave it that way.
Got it. And I think I heard you say that the long-term solution is to remove the gas either by passively venting or actively blowing it.
Yes, vacuuming that out with a blower.
Is there a
And,
limit to how much methane we can release into the air?
yes, there is whether or not the system would have to be flared or just vented, is a matter of how much gas is being pulled out and the quality of that gas. So there are air requirements for that until we get further into things. We don't know whether or not you fall into needing the flared or not. The DNR to date has already said, well, you can just vent it to the air. Well, that's they can say that because they're worried that's the solid waste group. The air group is going to say, you got to meet our requirements. So,
How, how long does that take? Like, are we talking like it get vented away in days? It's ongoing for years? What are we talking here?
it'll be years.
It just continuously venting or vacuuming or venting for,
Yes.
okay. And what's
So,
the,
so this waste has been out there for a very long time and it's still generating gas. I don't think it's generating a lot of gas, but it's generating high quality gas. So, once you pull on it, the gas will, it'll start getting diluted and you won't have as much gas, but you won't have the migration issue. That's the whole intent, is to keep it on the property. And by keeping it on the property, you're going to be pulling in some clean air, mixing it with the gas. And so it's going to get diluted. And that's where, does it need to be flared, or can it just be vented to the atmosphere? That kind of depends on that. But there's models that predict how long gas will be generated. Those models are flawed, and they say most of all the old landfills like yours would be done generating gas by this time. And obviously, at your landfill and at many other ones that I've worked on, they just keep generating gas. So it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years. It's hard to say when it's gonna fall below a threshold where you don't have to run the blower anymore.
okay. Thank you.
And that kind of goes into, do you want one blower or two blowers? Because maybe you'll be able to shut off sooner than the other. You can put a valve in to isolate the one landfill from the other landfill. So, but we haven't gotten to the whole design part and costing of things yet. But there's things to consider, because they may all be one landfill that just has a road by chance going between them. But for the most part, we didn't find waste and the gas probes between them, but we are finding gas in those probes. So it's possible one can be, to run them differently. Some landfills I've seen it where, as the time goes on, they run them for a portion of the day. So maybe part of it you'd have, that's the nice part of having a two blower system. If one, you only have to run 8 hours of the day to maintain compliance, and the other one you got to run all day long. You've got that flexibility that a valve does not give you if you just have one big blower and a valve between the two.
This is Cindy. Oh, did you have more questions, Tony?
I was just gonna say that's for later discussion.
When you talk about flare, what exactly do you mean?
They have two kind of flares. They have enclosed flares where you don't see a flame. It's inside of a big cylinder, so all you would see is a big round cylinder. Those are much more on the expensive side of things. And then they have open flares, so they call them candlestick flares, and it's just a pipe that goes up into the air, and depending on the gas, you won't see it during the day because it'll just look like heat waves, and you got to look at it to see the actual flame. But at night, you'll have a orange or blue flame that could be 5 feet tall.
I was gonna say, aren't there cities that use those flares to produce electricity somehow?
Yes, I don't think you're going to be in the situation to generate enough to go down that path. That's an expensive path to capture the gas, convert it to electricity. It's definitely something that can be looked at. Um, but it's a it's another very large expense. And
Because some
if you
people.
went down that path, one of the other ways you can do is to sell the rights to a developer and have the developer take on all the responsibility of it working and running, and they will make a profit. But if you can get someone to give you a small part of that, that's always good. But they normally want quantity, and um, they like to have a return on investment of a couple of years and be able to run it for 15, 20 years. And you probably don't have the quality of gas that you'd get many takers on it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question, comment?
Hey, Mike, this is Todd. I worked at the city for 31 years, and I'm just wondering, with the causing the methane gas, is that something that shouldn't have been in there, or not like you talk about the east side, that was already done before my time, but on the west side, I worked over there. So is it just something that shouldn't have been in the landfill, or is it coming from just regular garbage? Maybe it's a dumb question, but
It's I don't know if it's from something that shouldn't have been in there, but your regular household garbage, the organics in your household garbage break down over time, creating methane. Um, your wood products, they break down slower. Plastics they don't even come into the picture for the most part, but it's the organic matter.
thank you.
And at some point in time, it does use up all the organic matter, but you're still going to have wood, paper, those type of things that break down slowly, cardboard.
Good question.
Well, this is Seth. I don't really have any questions. I just kind of, for the benefit of Tanya, as she wasn't involved when this all started. Um, Essentially, the idea of having to go to a vented system was initially what we were hoping to avoid, if I remember correctly, with the expense of that and the hope that the probes would find that there just wasn't enough there. And obviously, Mike and Sarah, we've determined that it's there and we've got to do something about it. Correct?
Yes, so we've been doing this, gathering data since I think last April, May. So we've got over 8 months under our belt, and it's persistent. It doesn't seem to, well, it comes and goes based on pressure differences, but it it's definitely there and a problem. And it can't be necessarily solved by a simple system.
Right, and that was part of what we tried to do with the cutoff trench that we had, like adding more passive gas system near the southwest or southeast corner by the church. And while it did produce gas, it wasn't producing as much as we were hoping. Is that a good summary, Mike?
Yes, it's probably it's due to the fact that we found waste further to the east. We were trying to get the passive trench along the edge so that gas coming from the center would be cut off. But there's actually waste, even more waste that is less degraded further to the east when we did the test pit trench over by gas probe 2 and 1. So I was hoping that we could find a solution that would be passive but that was also, that's why we only did a portion of what was originally all approved, is because we didn't want to build a big network only to find out it didn't work. So we only built approximately 300 feet of it, and it did not work.
So what do we need to do decide tonight?
So one other thing that I had, and this is, I guess, kind of goes into well, a couple other things. So the city's been renting the gas meter. This is going to become a long-term project for the city of having to monitor the gas out there. So I've provided Sarah with a quote to buy the gas meter. I've been talking with the person that we're renting the equipment from. Well, talking, I've been exchanging phone calls. Finally got a hold of the person yesterday. They called me back and just left a message to call them back at the end of the day. And as soon as I called them back, they were gone. So I don't know if they can turn that rental into a rent to buy. But I think the city, it's going to be in the long term best interest of the city to purchase a meter. So Sarah's got that as one thing. Couple other things that I had that I wanted to bring up is Sarah and I are looking at different means of financial assistance, and there's not a lot of good options out there that we've identified. One of the things that was brought up, I believe, by the mayor was the whole super fund process, which is a, a fund that has been set up to remediate old sites. However, to be part of the super fund system, you have to be a NPL site, a national priority list site. You don't want to get on the NPL site because then you're being monitored by the US EPA. That would be kicking up the landfill into a whole nother realm of scrutiny. So and I don't even think you would qualify for the funding because the Superfund trusts that they have out there, the funds they have out there are for um, things where everybody has cut and run and there's nobody to point the finger at anymore that has any money. Well, they're always going to be able to point the finger at the city. So I do not think that is a route to go. Brownfield program, it's something we're looking into, USDA, there's no box that we fit into real cleanly. It's gonna have to be some creative writing to get someone to even bite on this as being, something that's eligible for a grant, but we are looking into those things.
Yeah, that is one thing. I spent a good amount of time trying to get in touch with people again. So I had originally reached out to the EPA, the DNR, the USDA on trying to find grant funds originally when we really didn't know what we had in front of us, like just help. So given now that we have a direction and like a project, Mike and I have been trying to connect with different folks. I was able to get a hold of somebody at the USDA today that was really helpful actually, because have not been able to get a hold of an actual person who will talk to me besides through an email, sort of, at the EPA. And that was only the Superfund folks, and basically saying you have to be on this list and you probably won't qualify. But the USDA people are sort of, it's the same vein as like our water and sewer. They were dramatically cut in terms of funding. So basically, we're saying you're really not going to get a grant or anything that's, I might have lost words, anything that's significant to the project. But there is potential for their loan program still has a lot of money, and it's, I think she said today it was like 3.75. That process, as we know, is not a quick one. So that would be one thing to be thoughtful about, meaningful in for us, is that are we going to be able to still act and try to follow those rules, like in terms of the time frame? She did talk to me about getting started on some of the documentation that's kind of universal for the federal government, like the engineering report and the environmental report, which I've done them on the water side and figure we could work together possibly so that Mike and I, so that we could have it ready to go and try to push it. She said that like you can start the process, but you can't bid anything out until you have their approval. And that's typically taken many months. So we'll have to see, but that was the first promising lead I've had. Mike had talked to Monroe County Landfill, and they had gone through like the HUD program. And I think what that means for us is like the Wisconsin Economic Development Corp, the CDBG program. And I've been trying to get a hold of somebody there. It's kind of funny because they start sending me emails back or voice messages and say, I know you've talked to many or reached out to many people in the organization. So, because I'm like full court press, who's going to actually answer me? And they wanted to talk. I don't know where we'll fall with that because there is that mean household income requirement. And the last time we checked, we were kind of out of that realm. And then I guess the other thing that I'm trying really hard to get connected with is the brownfields. There's a new brownfields grant, but it's doesn't seem overly clear that they would fund our project. And so I was trying to talk to somebody about that. If we had things like PCBs that were clearly in there or petroleum contamination, like it's a more obvious brownfield program. Whereas for us, you know, it's a resource recovery kind of thing. I guess the one thing that may have kind of driven us away from funding before is that we're not trying to redevelop the landfill site itself. We're trying to develop the areas surrounding the landfill site, and brownfields is all about redeveloping the site. So one thing Mike and I have been playing with is like, do we say, okay, we're going to make the landfill itself parkland and put a walking path through it, and that like maybe that will help trigger them to be more interested. So to be continued. As Mike said, it's been challenging to find a good fit.
So I guess with that and with what Sarah's sharing, so there's two things that and I don't know, Sarah, if you want to go through these or you want me to, but either way is fine. As far as requests from the committee tonight are related to the gas meter purchase and the trench that I talked about, the passive clay cutoff, passive venting trench on the north side of the east landfill.
All right, well, why don't we do it together? Since I already have the probe up, my thoughts on this is that we get approval to purchase a probe contingent on trying to first buy the one we have. We've spent a lot of money renting it up to now with the idea that we thought maybe we wouldn't need to purchase one in the end, but it's just not making economic sense. And so my ask is to give approval to purchase a new piece of equipment at this $15,725, contingent on following through and hopefully finally getting an answer from the place we're renting from, because Mike has been trying for, I would say, a good month, if not more, to nail them down. They originally didn't want, they're like, we don't sell equipment, but then we were really trying to encourage them. that this is actually a win-win for everyone and not just us. So that would be my first ask.
Okay, so you need a motion for that. If anyone have any more questions or want to make a motion?
This is Tanya. I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the gas meter and kit and sensor for 15,725. What was the wordage you used?
Contingent.
Contingent on and the preference being to purchase the one that we are renting.
This is AJ, I'll second that.
Motion by Tanya, second by AJ. Any further discussion, questions? Roll call.
Seth,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
AJ,
Aye.
Tanya,
Aye.
and Cindy.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, second.
Okay, the second part, did you want to walk through any of this at all, Mike, in terms of the price here that we have before we? Yeah, it's not a pretty number.
Basically, we put together estimated quantities and asked Badger to give us a unit price bid for those estimated quantities. And some of I know it's not a big number, but the seed and fertilizer way down on the bottom, that's $6,000. They said, well, that'll kind of all be part of the existing Hanson property development. So that may not be charged, but for the most part, it's in the ballpark of $150,000 to put that trench in. And this has, Sarah, you and I didn't talk about this. This has the city buying the pipe or using existing piping that you previously bought. So that piping is not included in this price.
Oh. Okay, do you know what the estimate is for that?
Not off the top of my head.
So I had come up with 157,000 as a 5% contingency, which is probably the pipe actually, when we purchased it straight up, was more economical than one would think. So
And I want to say that was in the range of 10,000.
yeah.
So that might be that 6,000 from the seed fertilizer and mulch, but
Sure. And unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but I think given that the Hanson Farm project is much larger than this project and can absorb like a change order on it, and the fact that it's the same contractor basically working on the same property, it probably makes the most sense. We can approve this, but that we'll work it into a change order for that contract, even though we'll pay for it from a separate pot, possibly, just in order to deal with the issues regarding bidding laws. So I think, again, we could approve this here to do the work, but we can formalize the contract in a formal change order. I think that's the cleanest way to do it.
So Sarah, I think first things first, let's nail down, did you get that final number that we're talking about?
Well, you heard the conversation, so.
No, and that's what I'm saying, is like, I'm looking at Lori, it's like,
Yeah,
if we were to
well-
make a motion on this, have we landed on what that number is?
We're not gonna, I don't think we're gonna ever have a final exact number in any case. Like anytime you're looking at a bid, right, you can do it. So what I would say is to do, like I had done the contingency of 157,000. Why don't we say up to 160,000?
Okay.
And then we'll work through
Okay.
that stuff.
Okay, so 160,000, and again, including the probe we just authorized, what remains of that $750,000 that was borrowed for back in 2025 to
Sure.
address the landfill issue?
Right.
Just, and again, this is where sort of Sarah's done a good job. We've talked about these numbers, just want to bring everybody up to speed on what we've discussed.
Okay, so,
And Sarah, there's your ISCO pipe was $3,000. You've got, I believe, 100 feet left, and it showed 155 feet of pipe needed. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be
Right.
a large number.
It's impressive the amount you save when you're purchasing it direct. Okay, so here is the amount that we spent so far. And that's including a bill that we have today from TRC that's going to council later today. I have what this is committed because we authorized the probe installation, but I have not had on-site bill me yet. So that would be for all of those probes that we put around. So I have an estimate, right? We're at about 100, if we incurring all this, and instrument, which was 15,725. So we're about 563,000 of the original 750,000.
And so what you're getting at is when you say a different pot, what the proposal is that the 2025, I think it was B borrowing that we did, that debt issuance, will not be used, or I'm sorry, will be used to pay for the up to $160,000 clay/gravel trench. However, it will be integrated into the Hanson Farm project, which is being paid for by a state trust fund loan, right? But it's going to be integrated into that because there's already a contract there, and we're going to try to operate it through a change order versus going out to bid again and going through all that headache and time delays that is caused by a full bid process.
Mhm.
So what will eventually happen, if you want to think about it this way, the Hanson Farm property will be improved using two different pots of money. One is the state trust fund loan, and then $160,000 out of the 2025 B borrowing to pay for this trench that we're talking about. Is that
Correct.
okay?
Yeah, and it would be not an efficient use of money to separate it.
Correct.
Like they're working in the area and they'll do the trench as they're doing the rest of the
Right.
work. So it truly makes the most sense and truly is really integrated in the work anyway.
And again, part of the understanding here is that there is sometimes sensitivity to this decision on the trench.
Right.
Right. Badger wanted to know last week, and Sarah and I and the mayor even do not have the capability to authorize $160,000 of work that was never in the original project plan. So it's to you tonight, and they are aching to go. And I will note that the mayor, myself, Sarah, Chad did discuss this several times last week as more information became available and we were taking time to make sense of it. And while the blower system that we discussed would be in some ways redundant to this clay liner or this clay trench/gravel trench, redundancies are, I guess, part of what we're trying to accomplish here is having, I think Mike gave the example is like if you lose electricity, you have a power outage at some point, now you're not having methane leaking into the Hanson Farm. And because we are looking at significant density to the north, we have significant density to the southwest that, trying to where we can make additional improvements with this landfill is, I guess, where the internal group landed on. Anything you guys want to add? Sarah, is there?
Yeah, no, I think that's
Okay.
a nice succinct way of saying it.
So you want us to authorize the 160,000? I'm trying to exactly figure out
Yeah.
how this motion should be worded.
Correct.
160,000 to Badger for the passive.
Clay cutoff trench on the Hanson property.
Okay. Anybody want to try that? I guess I just did it.
This is AJ. I make a motion to approve the clay cutoff trench construction with Badger up to $160,000.
There was a question, right? You said you wanted this. Oh,
That'll second it, or you?
Okay, motion second. We have more discussion.
I just want to make sure I understand the trench is kind of a temporary solution, leading us toward the long term, but I just heard you also say it is or somebody said it's a redundancy. So
Right,
it
yeah.
it also helps in the long term.
Yes. It's redundant and it will help in the long term. As Nate had said, that I said, if there's a power outage, if there's maintenance done on the active system, if in the future when you get to the point where there's not that much gas being generated and you shut the blower system down, you still have this barrier in place. So it's right now it's kind of for the short term, then it becomes a redundant system, and then it's a system for the long term, for the very long term.
Okay, thanks. And one last final question. When would we be doing the blowing? Like after construction? And kind of along with that, I'm curious which way the wind blows there. Or when we vacuum this stuff out and blow it away and dilute it, does it just go high enough that we don't have to worry about just thinking of the housing next door and how this will impact them?
I'm not sure what the prevailing winds are out there. It
When you drive past a pig farm.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it may have an odor. The flare, that's one of the things with the flare, is it does eliminate that odor. But a flare is complicated when your quality of gas decreases. Basically, it has to be between 5 and 15% methane. And if it's diluted down into if it gets to the blower flare system at about 20%, it is very hard to sustain a flare. It may be fine on calm days, but then it may blow out on windy days. So ideally, it dilutes itself enough that it can be vented and there's not an odor issue, but we don't know that right now. I mean, it's a potential concern.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion, questions? Okay, roll call.
Todd,
Aye.
AJ,
Aye.
Tanya,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
and Seth.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Well, thank you very much, Mike and Sarah, for all your hard work. So Badger's going to start working on this right away.
Yeah, it was so muddy out there. They at least weren't working this morning at all. And it sounds like some of their main guys are not going to be back till next week, but there is a guy that's going to be out there for the remainder of the week. And I would expect that they're going to start going full throttle on Monday. They've started with the pit already, the ponds, which is eventually
It's a pit.
essentially a hole in the ground. So I would say they're probably going to be starting on that next week. And then obviously we're going to be working on trying to find this next step as soon as possible. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit at all about timeframes there, Mike. That might be helpful just for people to get their head around.
I would say the time frame, so it needs to be designed, get through the DNR, which I don't think because they want this done so quickly. I don't think they're going to take that long. But you know, that process to get it designed and through the DNR, probably the fastest that would happen would be 2 months. Which, say February, March, go out to bid, in April. Select a contractor in May, construct this summer, may be operational by the 1st of August to the either, beginning of August or end of August, somewhere in that time frame, depending on if there's some kind of lag time. The pipe is something that you can get. The blower is the one thing. Depending, I don't know if our supply chain is improved. I haven't bought anything in the last 2 years. Big purchase like a blower. I'm not sure what kind of lead times there are on equipment like that right now. You're probably talking a good 6 months.
Right. And we'll have to figure out with funding, trying to integrate that in there, but being mindful of everything that's happening around the property. Once we get the blower system up and running, is this something that takes 2 years to get? Or like, I'm sort of leading you into an answer here, but you did talk a little bit about like how long, once we have it up and running, we would normally expect to see the benefit happening.
I think the benefit should be rather quick, because the gas is moving in that sand layer and we should be able to pull it back, because with just a simple change in the pressure, whether it's atmospheric, whatever changes in the ground pressure, when it goes negative, the gas seems to stay within the landfill. When there's not a pressure being placed on the landfill to hold the gas in, then it migrates. So it seems like it's very fickle that way, which will work to the city's benefit, that if we have enough extraction points, we should be able to control it rather quickly. And I'd say to get it balanced and everything, maybe 6 months after we've got it up and running. But you'll start to see the effect almost immediately. And it's one of those things where Sarah, has the gas, the horse getting out of the barn, what's already out of the barn, we gotta pull it all back and get it back in the barn. We gotta do that part of it. But you will start, once you start pulling a vacuum, you will start pulling gas out of the landfill. It's just to get the stuff that's further away, to get it all pulled back and not introduce too much oxygen into the landfill.
Oh, go
The
ahead.
160,000, does that include that another blower that we might have to get?
No, all the active stuff is totally separate.
Higher.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we'll hear in the near future from you and Mike about the thoughts about 2 active, 1 active, all those kind of things.
Yeah, so I think what Mike's been working on is trying to get a proposal for design services, and then can get moving on designing a system for us.
Right.
And looking at different options and some cost estimates for that. So hold your hats.
More to come.
More to come. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, again, I say thank you, Mike. Thank you, Sarah.
Of course.
Okay. Second period for public comment. Did anyone come on? Nate, any public?
I'm trying to release you.
Anyone like
What
to,
am I
it's
doing?
on that's public that would like to comment, now's your chance. Name, address, 3 minutes, please. No, no. It's such a fun topic. Okay, adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
AJ, I'll second.
Motion by Todd, second by AJ. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.